Welcome to the podcast, Theo.
I appreciate you having me, brother, man. It's been a minute.
Yeah, feels like, man, it almost feels like a whole year.
Yeah, well, I think it has been a whole year, actually, come to think of it. Yeah, I think it has been a whole, yeah, I think it has been about a good, well, 2019, my bad.
That's 2 years.
Oh, man. Well, like 2020 cancels everything out. So I
Right.
think, I think that officially still holds the 1 year title for right now.
True. True.
Hopefully that's fair.
Yeah. Hey, but by the time this comes out, it'll be 2022.
Then it was okay. So yeah, then I guess we could say 2 years, right?
Yeah.
In all fairness, it's okay. Fine, 20 years, 20 years, but
Two
that's all
years,
right
not
though.
20.
No, 2020. Yeah, you knew
Two.
what I meant.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I was like, whoa, whoa, don't be
I'm-
speeding past 20 years. It's like, then we'll get the gray in the beards. It's like my hair's gone. Well, I mean,
well,
it'll
I
probably
mean,
be about the same then.
it ain't gonna make a daggone difference, man.
Hey man,
But that's
I'd
okay.
say I'd say we're winning if we look like this in 20 years. It'd be like, hey, we didn't do too bad.
Listen, I will go ahead and say I got some pretty good genes, but yeah, 20 years, all this is gonna be great, man. All this is gonna be great. Probably even gone. I don't know. At this point, I definitely won't have no hair to put no bleach on. So, I'm sure my wife would definitely thank me for that. So,
Hey man, well, what do they say? Enjoy it while you have it.
this is true. YOLO, you only live once apparently, and I'm trying to do the best that I can with the little time that I got on Earth, if that makes any sense. But yeah,
Well,
so
don't make it like we're writing your eulogy or anything. Jeez.
funny enough though, that's what I had my group to 2 calls ago. That was our first group meeting, and I had them all write their own personal eulogies, and it was
Mm.
it was a pretty revealing exercise. It puts everything in perspective, man. Like I didn't realize, like when I was teaching school, I would have every year, every time I got a new batch of students, I would have them write their eulogies.
Mm.
And they were like, Mr. Brown, why you make us do something like this, like something so morbid and so weird? I said, well, I want you to think about life in a different way because I don't want you to waste time.
Mm.
You only got this amount of time here. And, and these are high school students, so freshmen to, seniors. And I said, one day you're going to have to think about what do you want people to say about you, or what do you want to be known for? And it puts things in perspective, because then it's like you realize that people remember you differently than what you think in your head, because sometimes we tend to show up differently than who we truly are. And so how do you get to your true authentic self? It's by taking all the clutter away and writing your own eulogy. It puts your mortality in the forefront of your thoughts. And when you do that, it literally almost realigns your values automatically, because it says, okay, well, I want to be known as a great person. Okay, well, how am I responding to life right now? Am I showing up as a great person? If that answer is no, then you need to start showing up as a great person. Because if this is truly what you want people to say about you, or what you want to be known as, then start living that, so that when your time comes, people can truly say that about you. So it was more of a life lesson,
Yeah.
but also just a way to kind of, you pause, like hit pause on life real quick. Let's rethink it.
Yeah.
So that was always my introduction to my class.
Man, how'd you come up with that of all things?
Well, it hit me because, like, for me, being prior service military, like I had to write my own will several times before I would deploy. So you literally go through this whole process. You write down everything, because you're not guaranteed to come back.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to make sure that all your ducks are in a row. And that was something that, you know, at a young age, it put life in perspective for me. Like literally, it's like a gut check. Like you realize, okay, yo, this is real life. Like there's no messing around. Like, you know, because it would be like a group of guys, like we're all just, cutting up and joking, and then it gets really dark and really serious. Like, hey, let's go ahead and go through your, you know, your family members. Like, who do you want to be contacted first? Then the jokes kind of start dying down.
Yeah.
And then it goes down to, you're not guaranteed to come back. So we want to make sure that all your stuff, all your belongings go to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And you start thinking in your head, like, oh, okay, I'm really not guaranteed to come back. And then it goes to, well, you know, this, you know, your insurance, this is who's gonna go to, this is your death gratuity, like this is who's gonna go to. Do you want to go to your spouse or to your mom, or to who do you want to go to?
Mm-hmm.
And then it gets really quiet because it hits home, because now you got to think about, how do I want my spouse or my parents to get this? Is this
Right.
even enough? You
Yeah.
know, if you're married with kids, it's like, wow, how do I divide this up? How do I set this up? And so when you go through that enough times, it makes you live a little differently. It makes you approach life. It makes you approach other people in your unit. It makes, it brings life into perspective. And
Gotcha.
so for me, that was always the quickest way to bring life into perspective, because I could tell you life lessons, but if I can't tell you something that you're also going to witness, something that you're also going to have to go through,
Mm-hmm.
then it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So that was always the biggest connector to me and my students,
Gotcha.
as
I,
weird as it sounds.
I guess no, I kind of like that, but I'm curious, kind of with the vein of where you've been focused on, and maybe you can explain that a little bit more. But like, how do you go from taking something so serious to like dealing with something that's so serious and not letting
Mhm.
it paralyze you per se, to where it's like you can overly obsess with okay, like this is going to this person, this is going to that person, and it's like that can kind of shock you into existence and kind of like cut the jokes for a little bit. But it's like, how do you still manage to enjoy your life and enjoy your time with your buddies, with those closest to you, thinking in the long term, like, okay, this is what I want to leave them, but I also want to not just focus on what I'm going to leave them, but I also want to be here with them while I'm here, and not just be like, okay, I'm gonna be over here just master planning this thing. I'm gonna leave you all these riches, all this stuff. And it's like, well, it
Right.
would have been nice if you would have just been here
Right.
while you were here and not just planning for a future that could come, but now
Right.
we're just left with the stuff and we're not left with you.
Well, it puts life in perspective, honestly, because at least for me, I cherished every moment past that.
Mm,
So I showed up 100%. I showed up fully. I was present because um, I did not want to not enjoy life.
mm,
Because when your mortality is put into perspective, you can either get paralyzed by that, or you can enjoy life. And for me and my, and my experience in life, I'm on borrowed time, bro. Like there's no way I should be here. And so it makes me say yes to more um dangerous things, as in dangerous as in stepping out of my comfort zone. It
mm.
makes me say yes more, because I no longer enjoy the comfort zone, because I realize that if you're on borrowed time, you not that you can't afford to be comfortable, but it's just like, what's the point? Like if you can push further past that, what are you gonna find beyond that wall of fear that you put yourself behind? And so for me, I showed up in life more. Um, I enjoyed life more. I enjoyed food more. I enjoyed sleep more. I enjoyed the people I was with more, because it did put that in perspective. Because you're not guaranteed that, because after that you're on borrowed time. So why not, right? But you're right, there is another perspective where you can go left of, oh, I'm just gonna hide behind here and just really overthink this process, and but once you realize that it's gonna come whether you want it to or not, whether now, tomorrow, 3 years from now, 10 years from now, it's coming. So what are you gonna do? And I couldn't just, because I also know there's other people who have planned for it that didn't make it to that day. I'm sure they would have wished to enjoy their life a little bit more. So I'm gonna do what they didn't get a chance to do, which is enjoy life a little bit more. So, which hindsight, it's a great response to it, but then I also realize where it has its downfalls, though, right? It has its downfalls because your fear level is scary, and I mean that as in your ability to surpass fear or to override fear is dangerous, because those who are with you, right, might not be comfortable with your level of comfortability with fear. So you're living life a little bit different.
Yeah.
And people aren't gonna understand that. You're making decisions based off of life, not current situations. And sometimes those decisions might seem erotic. Like, why would you spend so much money on that thing? Or why would you go to training for this? Or why would you put yourself in a dangerous situation? For you, fear isn't really something that you let stop you, because you understand that it's not guaranteed. And so it highlights you. It puts you in a spotlight of, and you're gonna lose friends, and you're gonna lose people due to that outspokenness about you, or that way of living. It's just not normal to the average person. Not saying that everybody is average, but it's a little bit different, because you're taking more risks than the normal average human being, because you realize that you're not guaranteed life, and you're taking that seriously.
Yeah.
Or if people are like, hey, let's go out drinking, I'm good. It sounds cute, but when you don't really have a whole lot of people banging at your door to hang out with you, because you're so quote unquote extreme,
Mhm.
because you see life differently, it gets lonely at times. But it's like, and I hate to sound so morbid, but yeah, so is when you're dead. Like, like that's a lonely feeling, right? Like, well, yeah, there's that.
Sorry.
So yeah, that's how you bring laughter to that.
And man, I guess if you can't laugh about it, you can't really appreciate it. It seems like.
True, this is true.
Oh man. But I know earlier you mentioned about starting the group. I'm curious, tell me a little bit more about that. Pathfinders, right?
Yep. So Pathfinder literally developed under the quarantine, which Pathfinder stands for Pursuing Authenticity Through Healing, and you know that's what Path stands for. And the whole thing behind Pathfinders is literally, so it's actually a job in the military. What Pathfinders do, or it's a specific high level job. What they do is they go behind enemy lines and set up a landing zone for helicopters to come and drop in, just resupplies or just whatever they need to do. So they have to create a path where there's literally no path. Like, so that was the whole, you know, thinking behind it. Like, can you go behind your own insecurities, behind your own fears, behind your own trauma, and reclaim you? Can you create a new life
Hmm.
by going beyond your trauma, by going beyond your fears, by going beyond your own limiting beliefs? And literally, it's just that mentality that I don't want to say I push on others, but that's what I believe,
Mm.
right? It's like the only way to truly get to your authentic self is to let go
Mhm.
of all the other things that are piled upon that, those titles, those insecurities, those fears. Can you let go of them and just show up as you? A lot of times trauma prevents us from becoming who we're supposed to be or
Mhm.
becoming who we're created to be. And so that's literally like, you know, we go beyond that and we do it in a community format because community builds life, right? Community is what sustains life. And for a lot of people going through the journey alone, it's, you know, is lonely, and it's, some people, they stop, they quit.
Mhm.
So where there's a community though, it holds you accountable psychologically. If you can't do it for yourself, you're gonna do it for somebody else. Is in the sense of, at least they're holding me accountable.
Yeah.
You know, and my biggest motto is I'm gonna hold you accountable with grace. Because if I don't, that, you know, that is straight up judgment. And so yeah, accountability without grace is judgment. So it's just more like, I understand you're human, I understand what you've gone through. I also need you to get where you want to get to because you said you were going to get to.
Mm.
So can you at least make an attempt?
Yeah.
From the attempt, can you then keep going? I'm not going to keep pushing you beyond your limits, but I am going to nudge you a little bit.
Mhm.
Like, okay, so you're afraid of this. Okay, that's cool. That's fine to be. Your fear is legitimate. So let's start picking at your fear. Let's put some logic behind that fear.
Mm.
Okay, this experience happened in your life. Okay, can, do you want to go back and resolve it? Do you want to look at it? What has happened? You know, how are you responding to life now because of this experience that's happened to you?
Mhm.
Okay, if you're responding like, is that how you want to respond? If the answer is no, how would you like to respond? Okay, let's focus on that, and let me hold you accountable to that. And once we get there, then we're gonna dissolve, you know, try something different. But it's, so it just more, that's what a community is about. Literally people from entrepreneurs to single moms to married men to, it's a collection of people who feel like life just has dealt them a bad hand,
Mhm.
and that's fine. But life doesn't deal anybody a good or bad hand. It just deals you what life deals you. I always say life be life, and that's literally just, that's what life does. It just, it shows up. But how are you showing up to life though? So it's just like just going through the whole process. So yeah, that's what yeah, essentially Pathfinders is
Gotcha.
in short.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty. I I like that because it's in alignment with what we've kind of been talking about, what we've been on in step with, whether it was like finding the disc, even before finding the disc, like joining the prayer line, having
Mhm.
conversations that are really allow you to dive deep and kind of uncover a lot of the misconceptions or bad teachings that we've had in the past. And um it's I guess it's amazing to me how you were able to kind of connect those two things, because it's like having a prior military background and knowing like this is what a pathfinder does. Like, how did the idea come through after having gone through like the military, working as a barber, going through different trainings and things like that, wanting to do personal development, and then like the more you just kept doing this deep dive, it seems like you kind of circled back around to where you were before, and it's like two things kind of just linked up, and it's like, aha.
No, so bro, it was weird because I, when I got out of the military, I swore up and down I will never just relive those experiences. I didn't want to do nothing with it. But then life hits you differently. Then you start to reflect on your experiences. Then certain acronyms start to kind of pop in your head, like things that were drilled into your head, you know, as you know, just when you are in the military. and acronyms are the only way the military seems to be able to make sense to a lot of people. Well, to me, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I can't remember this thing. Give me an acronym for it. Oh, okay. Right. And so, but I'm like, even in my own journey, I was like, I'm really pursuing my own authenticity. Like I'm pursuing that person, that spirit, that person that God created, right? Jeremiah 1:5 says, I knew you before I created you in your mother's womb. Like I knew you. That's the Theo version, right? That's a Theo version's, it's not a biblical thing. The verse is, but just my interpretation of it, right?
Yeah.
And so, so really going off of that verse, like I found that verse probably, I knew that always existed because it always had to do something with, oh, I know what the plans that I have for you, all the good stuff. But I was like, well, that's cool. That's cool. Because my parents, they would drill those into our heads. And so, but I never went back and really looked at it until probably about a year and a half ago, like right before the pandemic, because I was sick and tired of hiding behind something,
Hmm.
right? So being in the military in my early 20s, my identifiers was a uniform. I had my rank, like the military branch, my name, and that's how I was known. I was known as that, right? That defined me. That was my identity. You get out of the military or you get out of that job that you've done for so long, especially in your early years as an adult, now you have nothing to identify you with. And now you have to reconstruct this whole identity. So you go through this identity crisis. And so for me, going through the identity crisis really made me start pursuing that Jeremiah 1:5, like that person that God created. Who is Theo? Why does Theo even exist? What is it supposed to do on this earth? And so pursuing that person, so pursuing my true authentic self, like that was literally what started it. And I think I was always on that journey, but it always showed up different. And, it showed up different through the disc, right? Just understanding, okay, like what's my behavior traits, personality traits, or, just any of that. And it kind of put me on a rabbit hole of, if this is my behaviors, if these are my tendencies, if this is, how I show up, why is that? Like, let me go beyond that. And so you start digging through your own traumas, you start digging through your own thoughts, feelings, and all that stuff, and you start really finding out that your belief system was never yours to begin with. It was what your parents constructed, and they handed it to you, and you went with it. So now, once you get to that point, it's like, do I drop my belief system or this old belief system and take on a new one, or how do I even make one? So you start literally challenging your own beliefs. You start challenging your own values. You realize that a lot of your values are based off of how you grew up. But as an adult now, like, the more you got the responsibility to either keep it and stay that person, or you can change that. Like, there is nothing wrong with changing your values. Often we want to hold on to the old things because they've served us thus far.
Yeah.
But then again, they keep us stuck anyway. So it's like, there's nothing wrong with saying, you know what, this is not working anymore. Let me change that. And so for me, that's literally where I am in life, continuous pursuit of who I am, continuous pursuit of who God created. And so it's like, okay, but how do I do that? I need to start healing a lot of the traumas that I went through. I need to start really understanding my own issues. I need to start understanding my own behaviors and either self-correct or understand that, or create a way to not even to cope, but to continually push through life. Like, how do I do that? I'm pursuing my authenticity through healing. And I was like, how do I remember that? This daggone thing is, it's a path. Wait a minute. It's a path. Like, you're finding your path through life. You're going on a journey.
Yeah.
You're not an explorer, you're a pathfinder. I was like, that's been in my head this whole entire time, right? And so that's literally how Pathfinders, like that, just the name in itself, just the acronym in itself, really started coming to life. And I started plugging in a lot of my own life experiences, and I realized, wow, there's a lot of things that you're healing from, Theo. There's a lot of things that you're still doing that you haven't healed from. So continuous pursuit.
Mhm.
Keep doing that. So yeah, that's like, hey, I'm on a journey. Who wants to go on this journey with me?
Yeah.
It's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. But who wants to take the challenge on and say, hey, I'm also pursuing my own authenticity? Yeah. So that's mainly those people that want to take the challenge of finding who they are or working through their own stuff. That's where they come to. And we, as a collective, mind you, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a counselor, so that's just a disclaimer. I'm just a person who firmly believes in becoming better by healing.
Yeah.
That's, to me, I think that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
To me, I think that's a no-brainer, but there's like, I don't need a psych degree to understand, like, oh, when you undo certain traumas and reframe traumas, or you go back and revisit certain things and figure out a way to understand them, or figure out a way to not even cope with them, but to, so that they don't no longer control how you behave. To me, I think you're becoming a better person
Yeah.
if you no longer get angry when somebody cuts you off. I think you just saved your own life by not getting shot in a road rage incident in
Yeah.
Atlanta, like, because like that happens all the time in Atlanta apparently.
Right.
And so, like, okay, so to me that was a no brainer. So yeah, that's kind of the same energy I put towards, whoever joins a group is like, hey, do you want to be a better person? Whatever that version of you is now, do you want to make that a better version? Okay, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Let's go through this. Yeah.
That's good. And kind of to stick right there for a minute, not brush past it, because um I feel like sometimes it's a lot easier to say something's a no-brainer once you've kind of gone through the process and you've
Mm-hmm.
had some success from it, because it's like, if you remember back, or at least for me, it's been a challenge, like going through, even accepting going through challenging, or saying like, do I dare even look at what I'm afraid of? Do I even want to know what I don't know? Do I want to challenge my beliefs? Because it's comfortable being in a nice group where like everybody kind of echoes what you're saying. It's like, oh no, you're good. Yeah, yeah, you look
Mm-hmm.
good, you sound good, everything about you is great. But then when you kind of get behind enemy lines and you kind of start getting into like hostile territory where you start having confrontation with people, it's that's one thing. But also once you start having confrontation with yourself, it's it can be challenging. But like
Oh yeah,
after
no
you
doubt.
you learn to do that a couple times, it doesn't sometimes it gets easier depending on the scenario, but other times it
Mm-hmm.
gets it's manageable. Even if you don't want to do it, you understand that, okay, I was able to do this much work to get me to this point, and I know if this is still like a sticking point, then I need to kind of uncover this thing or find a way to get through it. Because if I don't get past whatever this issue is, or whatever this trauma, whatever this anger, whatever it may be, like if you don't get past it, it kind of finds a way to always show up, and it's
Right.
always there to just be like, hey, remember me? Hey, did you forget? Remember
Yeah.
me? It's like,
Yeah.
oh, you always do this. Or it's like things people will say that might trigger a behavior in you, where before it's like, well, if you know that you've already gone through like the pathfinding process, to where it's like, okay, I've already gone through this, and I've already healed. I've kind of ripped off the scab. It's healed properly. I didn't put a bandage on it. I didn't try to hide it from the air, hide it from the sunlight. I laid it bare. I went through the process. I went through this. So it's like, now something that somebody may have said before that might be triggering or upsetting, it's like, oh no, like it's okay. Like they can be who they want to be, and I can be who I want to be because I understand that. And like I I just wanted to say that little piece on that part there because it's like before I didn't want to I was saying it not to necessarily challenge what you said, it's a no-brainer, but just to kind of expand on it, like, it's a no-brainer because, like, once you
You're right.
do it, you
Hmm.
understand it a little bit better. Like, maybe it's a lot easier to understand, like, physical activities or things like, "Okay, we're gonna go for a run," or, "I'm gonna lay down and sleep for 6, 7, 10 hours." Like, whenever you do those 2 things, like, I know they're very different, but when you're able to put one foot in front of the other and say, "Okay, I'm gonna walk this distance. It's gonna take me this amount of time, or I'm gonna fall asleep, turn off the phone, turn off any, like, outside media to interfere with my rest," then it's you know what the feeling is after the fact, where it's like you might have the struggle at first getting to sleep or, like, the aches and the pains initially, but when you feel like that rest afterwards, just like, "Oh, man, we got a good sweat out," or, "Oh, man, like, I feel well rested. My eyes are opening. I'm not groggy. I'm not cranky." I'm just like, "Whew, okay, I feel good. Let me do that again."
No, and and you're absolutely right. It's a no-brainer because I did go through it, and it's a no-brainer because I'm still going through it. And I think I use that term loosely. And you're right. I should have gave a pre-warning on that because you're right. Because I do tend to get caught up in my own process that I'm like, oh wow, why did I think about this before? But it's a no-brainer now. But 5 years ago, that was unheard. Like I didn't even think about that, right? Because I didn't know. And I'm also realizing that healing is a journey because it's like there's never an end date. It's never completed because every time you heal from something. So let's use the scab analogy, right? Like the top part or the top layer might be healing, but there's still also healing to do underneath, right? Like there's that deeper healing. Just depends on how deep the cut is. And there's always scar tissue that's not going to prevent you from moving how you're supposed to move, right? You know how naturally you were able to move. But with the scar tissue, that just means that it healed. You can still feel it. You can still recognize it, and it's going to restrict a little bit of your movement, but you're still able to move, right? And it's just like understanding that, hey, it's a process that you continually go through. Yes, you're still going to get triggered, but your triggers are not going to override your sense and logic. It's like even now, like I still get triggered on the road sometimes when I'm driving and I see like some trash on the side of the road. I still get triggered, still get some sweaty palms. But before it was more like my heart would beat super hard. I was like, that thing's about to blow up. Like if I saw a car moving close to me, I would almost slam my brakes on. I would start sweating.
Mm,
Now I recognize that, okay, ooh, yeah, yeah, your palms are sweating. Yeah, you're being triggered. Okay. But I'm not allowing that to determine my course of action now.
mm,
It's like I could get triggered and still process life
right.
versus get triggered and stop life. Like, okay, I can no longer do this. Like I used to not like going into crowds. Now I put myself in a situation, that I expose myself to crowds. I go into crowds. I'm able to stay longer than I used to, but it's just okay. I'm still triggered. So like that's more of okay. I'm still triggered, but I'm able to put a safety on that trigger. Like every weapon has a trigger and has a safety,
Mhm.
right? Well, let me say most weapons. Most weapons, right? I don't want nobody out there like being like, man, what are you talking about? Not every weapon has a trigger, okay, or and/or safety, but the most common weapons that have safeties, you know, most M4s, most weapons, most military issued weapons have safeties. they also have triggers too, right? And so when the safety's on though, you can pull the trigger all day and nothing happens, right? But when the safety is not on, right? You pull the trigger, there's a reaction that happens, and you know the weapon fires. So understanding that, okay, hey, I have a safety for this trigger. So now I understand if I'm driving on a side of the road, or if I'm driving on a road and I see, just whatever, I'm still gonna sweat. My palms might get a little clammy, but it's okay. Like there's a safety in place. The safety in place for me is being aware of where I am. It's not a desert. It's not Afghanistan. It's not. I'm not in a Humvee. Okay, there's nobody trying to kill me. Like that has to also always be in play. That safety has to always be in play. So that's, to me, that's what I use as, just as my safety.
Gotcha.
So yeah, but it's a continuous journey, bro. It never ends.
Yeah.
It's a continuous journey because those traumas will show up. Lord have mercy. Yeah.
Gotcha. And I guess that it's a I, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because sometimes it's like someone may hear that. I remember the first time I heard someone tell me about that, about life. It's just like this thing just keeps going, and you've got to find ways to push through it, because a lot of people would get discouraged, especially given what's the last few years have been like, and just been like, I don't see an end in sight. But um like you mentioned before, like having community and also having the tools that you um the tools at your disposal, kind of like going back to your training to say, okay, when things get hard, like here are things that I can do. Like if I'm getting an oversaturation of the same news over and over, maybe I just change the channel, or maybe I
Mm-hmm.
turn off the channel altogether. Like I've heard so many people disconnecting from social media altogether because it's like this isn't a this isn't a positive thing. And it's like you need positivity in your life to function, because like the world is hard enough. Like you don't have to go find something hard if you're already working on healing yourself each and every day or throughout the year. Like those things are going to come up as hard. And when you can enjoy to like have a laughter, put your affairs in order and things like that, and just kind of find something to be joyous about, it's you spend a little less time um bickering or fighting with yourself, or just like, oh, like when's this going to happen? Because it's like
Yeah.
the biggest thing that I've done well to steer clear of is like just the anxiety that people kind of just carry with themselves. And it's like I forget what triggers anxiety, but I know last week I was talking with Regina, and she'd highlighted something to me about anger, and it's that anger is
Mm.
steeped in punishment. And anytime that
Mm.
you see someone getting angry, or you yourself feel angry, it's really a reaction to punishing yourself for something that you haven't done, or something you felt like, okay, because this didn't happen, I need to punish myself in this way. And instead of like yelling at yourself like you may always do, that yelling kind of spews out into other people, and people are just like, the heck is wrong with that guy?
Mm-hmm. 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 Like that. Oof. Ooh. Yeah. I completely see that. I completely see that. You see that also, like, the road rage incidences that keep happening.
Mhm.
You wonder, like, when somebody cuts you off, or you see somebody cutting somebody off, and then they end up at the same stoplight. It's like you literally just hurried up to just meet me back here. Like, what are you doing, right? You could choose to either engage that person by being nasty to them, right? Or you could choose to just, we're both at the same stoplight, right? But then I realized that some people who get angry, there's this thing of not being wanting to get taken advantage of, right? It's like, so when somebody cuts you off, it triggers a memory of, oh, they're trying to take advantage of me. Like they're trying to do something to me. And I'm like, no, they must be in a hurry.
Mhm.
Like, what's the point of getting in? Like, again, that would seem like a no-brainer, right? But I realize that people aren't built like that. I realize that there's people who still have things to work through. I realize that, for some men, anger is the only emotion that they feel comfortable showing because it shows passion, or it shows just whatever. But there's just so much more to the person. But yeah, it's steeped in all that. And so yeah, she's absolutely correct. She's absolutely right on that.
Yeah.
I'm glad she brought that point up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, I think the reason why it came up, it's like because a lot of times when you kind of go through the healing process, or you have a, I guess you'd say like a debrief session where you kind of recap on the week, and then you have some takeaways as to like, okay, this happened, these were the good, this was the bad, here's where I can improve, and then okay, I'm gonna go out of this meeting with this thing to do, and then
Mhm.
immediately somebody does something or something happens, and it's like all the bad thoughts just kind of pop into your head, and it's
Yeah.
like you just lash out and you say that, but it's like even in saying that, it's almost like either you may not be punishing yourself in the moment, but it's like that thought of like, hey, somebody's getting over on me, and
Hmm.
then I feel bad about, oh, I just talked about what I was going to do to improve, and then I go and do the exact opposite. So it's like, did I really learn anything? But it's like, okay, well, yeah, you're learning things. You're just because you learned something, it doesn't mean that you just snapped into the
Oh,
matrix and
yeah,
then
like
you're just
like
like, oh,
automatic, like it
right, now I know
applies.
kung
Yeah.
fu, I know how to resolve all problems and all matters, and it's like, no, no, you don't. And um some like whenever I know we keep talking about like the road rage incidents, and I clicked on, like, I jumped on Amazon Prime and like do their little video thing to see what they've
Mhm.
got on there, and there's this video with this movie with Russell Crowe called Unhinged. And as I started watching it,
Mm.
I was just like, is talking about the same thing, so many incidents of road rage happening, people just losing their mind. And as I was watching it, I was just like, this makes 0 sense. Like, this is like a perfect picture of just how to be very unreasonable, and just you have somebody that just woke up one day, something went wrong in his life, and he just decided to start taking it out on people randomly. And then starting to be like, okay, I'm going to enforce justice in the way that I see it. And then just
Mm.
go about that. And just as I was watching it, I was like, I don't know if I would ever be able to enjoy this movie, or if I'm just like, this is terrible. Like his motivations make no sense to me, because I'm I've understood and rationalized that, hey, like, just because something's going wrong with you, you can't just
Put it
filter
on
that out.
somebody else.
Yeah, you can't just put that out into the world. You don't just go murder a family. You don't go murder somebody's friends and family because they just cut you off in traffic and you're
Right.
having a terrible time. And I was like, I don't know what they were trying, what point they're trying to get across with this movie, but yeah, this one's not for me.
But you know what though? Here's the thing. It's like even just that movie alone feeds the narrative to a lot of people,
Right.
because it's not the first time we've ever heard that movie was made. Probably not even probably because of so many road rage incidences that have happened, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, and you wonder, it's like, this is that comment that a lot of people resonate with it.
Mhm.
And you scratch your head like, oh, really? And you start to really like think about it and you're like, wow, like I probably need to stop driving. It's like as many weirdos are out here. It's like, be conscious like when you're driving, but it's like you also get to see how much pain is in the world though.
Mm,
It's not like the movie Taken where it's like, okay, like, old boy had a reason to go get his daughter back, right? And so
right.
let me, or it's not like what's that movie with Keanu Reeves?
Oh, just had, just had it on
I
the
Where to
tip of
Kill
my
His
tongue.
Dog. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I was just watching something
it,
like it because they made another movie called Nobody, but
right.
uh,
It, I now it's gonna bug me because I can't
yeah,
remember the
it'll
name.
come back.
Yeah,
John Wick.
it's like, yeah, John Wick. It's like they killed my dog, so now I'm gonna kill the whole entire family, and it's like, okay, that's far fetched, but road rage is real. Road rage is real because it's what people are dealing with on a daily basis. Because I can also see
Like
the other side of it.
nobody's sitting in traffic just being like, man, I know I'm gonna be sitting in here for 2 hours, but man, thank God for the miracle of public transportation or the miracle of just like this ingenuity of this car. Like, isn't this wonderful? Isn't this
Like,
great?
man,
It's like,
isn't
man, we're
my Buick
flying.
amazing?
We're gonna be
Right? It's
delayed
like
for 5 hours, but people used to take 36 hours to go 20
nobody
miles
thinks
like
about
before.
that,
No, because
but
it's
it's
like,
like you see it because it's a chain. It's a triggered chain events, right?
mhm,
It's like somebody said something to you at work they didn't like, so you held it in because you wanted to keep your job. So you go to your car, quote unquote, safe space. You're driving. You're hitting all the red lights, and these little micro, little drops of just anger keeps pinging at you. It's like when somebody throws like a grain of rice at you multiple times. You're like, man, it's like, okay, first 5 times, okay, cool. Then it gets to like 10 times, like you're hitting on the red light. Somebody cuts you off, about 3 miles down the road. You know, somebody calls you and you get in a conversation about something that you didn't do. Your kid, something happened to him in school. Like all that stuff compiles as you're driving. Then somebody, as you're in this headspace, cuts you off to try to, beat the light, but you're thinking about all this, and now you're like, shoot, I almost hit this person. I could have got killed, or I could have killed them. I could have ended up in jail. I would have lost my job. I would have lost my family. Now all those little things, a grain of rice that's getting thrown at you, becomes a bags of rice, and it's like, you just try to calm it down, calm it down, calm it down. So you keep going, and you're about maybe 5 miles from home. You're hitting all the red lights. Somebody cuts you off again, and by now you're fuming, like you're just fuming. And so it's like all these little things that's happened, plus all the stuff that you've never dealt with, as a child, right?
yeah.
It's like this compound interest on this up, and you feel justified because they cut you off. They could have killed you. They could have killed somebody.
Mhm.
What irresponsible idiot does that? Well, now you're the irresponsible idiot. It's like, because now you're getting in a conversation with road rage. So it's just like just shaking your anger at the door. And that's one thing that for me, as a high energy individual, like I have to watch how I respond to situations because I'm emotionally charged. So if I'm not careful, I would I will go straight emotional versus logic. My emotions will override my logic, and I'll end up making a critical error because I was thinking emotionally. And it could be something as small as my my dog makes a mess, on the carpet. Now I'm just like, yo, why do we even have this stupid dog? Like now I'm going through this whole range of emotions versus just saying, okay, it happened, just clean it up. You got cleaning solution, clean it up. But if I'm running behind, now I'm thinking, man, it's gonna smell like dookie when I get home. Like it's gonna smell like, oh, this terrible. It's like now you're going through these these things that haven't even happened yet, and you're perpetuating this thought process, and boom, you blow up. It's like, wow, I should have probably took a pause break you're like in between that and just like really thought about that whole thing. But I guess most people don't have the time, or most people aren't willing to make the time or the investment to just say, you know what, let me just calm down. Let me just put that safety in place because I'm feeling triggered right now. So it I get it,
Yeah.
but you're right. It makes it makes no sense. Like, why would you do that? But
Right.
now you're the babbling idiot that's on world, on World Star, getting posted online because you decided to get in a fight with somebody in the middle of a 4-lane traffic.
Yeah.
Now you're that person. Now you
Yeah.
definitely lost your job because your job can't have your back because because irrationally you went mental versus just, hey, let's logically think about this. So just watching myself, just calm it down, understand where I am. Can I stay aware enough to know that what I'm doing impacts me greatly? If I can do that, then I can get myself out of most things. I
Yeah.
can override my own triggers. So at least that's for me.
Yeah.
Now,
Hey, I mean, if there's any caveat to this, I'd say it's conversations like this versus a movie I catch on a late night that kind of allows me to really enjoy life and put things into perspective to be like, okay, this is the reality. That's not like, yes, those
right.
incidents happen, but being able to just have a sit down like this or just be able to kind of communicate and trade thoughts um on a calm playing field and not be just overly consumed with, okay, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. It's like, yes, things do happen. And like, yeah, that's just it. Things do happen, but you
Like that's
we have
literally
a
it.
we
Things
have a
happen.
choice to we have a choice of how we're going to respond. And
Right.
the response is always kind of the outcome. Like nobody maybe sees who throws the first grain of rice, but they see like you retaliate. But it's like
Exactly.
learning how to respond in the moment and just kind of also being able to forgive yourself for reacting and not going about it the way that you wish you wanted it to go, and kind of
Mhm.
doing that on a daily basis, like practicing self-love, like giving to yourself what you want so many other people to have. It's nice to say, okay, we want to live in a world where there's no hunger, no sadness, none of those things. But it's like you kind of have to give that to yourself first, because if you keep um how do they say, pouring from an empty cup, after a while you end up being that overstressed, that overdrawn person that's just like, ugh, like when does this end? And it seems like there's no end in sight because you've already done all you could do for
Right.
everybody but you. And then you're just like, ah, jeez, not again.
And that's the sucky part, man. That's the sucky part because it's like sometimes you realize that a little too late. But then once you realize that, it's up to you to put a hold on that. Like, ooh, I'm I've overdrawn overdrafted my account. I need to go ahead and stop spending.
Mhm.
I need to wait until I replenish. I need to wait until the next paycheck hit. Like, it's your life. Like, you can live it how you want, make the decisions you want. But at the end of the day, it's, can you afford that? Can you afford those decisions that you're making? Or can you afford helping somebody else when you are in the negatives? And circling back to that point, it's like you literally are on borrowed time. It's like somebody loaned you this month. Let's use money. Somebody loaned you this. You've already overdrafted. What are you gonna do? Do you keep making the same mistakes over and over again, hoping to get it, hoping to get out of the hole, or do you wait and regroup and actually figure out a different way to go about life? And for me, I can no longer afford to be overdrafted. Like I can't. I'm on borrowed time. And for me, I'm choosing to utilize whatever little time that I do have on this earth, because ain't nothing guaranteed in life. So I'm utilizing that as a means of, okay, do what you need to do it to the best of your ability, show up, always show up as you, because that's the only thing you got. Always show up as you. And so that's how I'm choosing to approach life, man. Right now, life is just life, and so I'm showing up to life as just me.
I love it.
Yeah.
Hey, let the people know how they can join Pathfinders or link up with you online or offline.
Well, hey, if you want to join Pathfinders and that's something that you want to do, um, I'll give that caveat is we're not for everybody, just because of the way that we go about doing things. But if that sounds like something that you want to do, you could go on my Instagram at Theo.Brown. Yeah, Theo.Brown_T, and hit the link, or go to Pathfinders 180 and go register. Our next call is September 9th. So the second Monday of the month. It's always the second and last Monday of the month
Gotcha.
that we have the calls. So definitely, we do have, it is a paid community, just because it's like, when when it did a free community the first time, it was like people would show up, but it wasn't that interactive. But because now you got to invest into the community, there you have stake into the community. So it's like, okay, hey, reserve your ticket, pay for the ticket, get in the call, listen or not listen, or contribute to the call. But it's a great community, and it's something that anybody can be a part of, but only people with the right mindset actually get something out of the community. But yeah, that's how people can get a hold of me, on Instagram or Facebook. Yeah, my all my
Very
stuff
good.
is up there. Like I rarely use Facebook, so I was like,
Yeah,
what is my Facebook thing? But yeah, I'm just out here, man. I'm just out here living and letting life be life.
awesome. Hey,
For the most part,
life
yeah.
be life.
Hey, it be doing that now. It be doing that.
Well, I appreciate the time, Theo. Got to wrap
Oh
up
man, I
and
appreciate
head
you too,
into
bro.
work.
Oh man, yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, you go and help the good people, my brother.
You too.
All right, man.
Take care.
All right. Likewise.